Hello. Welcome back to Are You Ready for Your Inspection podcast. This one, I hope you're all well. I hope the sun is shining. It is where we are, so you all know I love a little bit of sunshine. So whether you're listening to this in your ears or whether you are watching this on YouTube, thank you very, very much. I'm recording this. I think of these ideas or these podcast subjects when I go on my daily walks. So you probably know that I do a lot of walking. Well, I try to anyway. So this one is about something that I've heard, and it's all about, rumour has it, that Ofsted are considering, so I'm not saying this is true, but they are considering a shorter inspection cycle. So we all know that actually the inspections are, if you're good and outstanding, are at 6 years. And this came into play around the pandemic time because obviously settings were they were still open but minimal, and inspectors were not around, and it was probably the easiest thing to do was to actually take it to 6 years. However, and this is going to be probably debatable, this episode, so I just want to give you in my opinion, why the benefits of a shorter inspection cycle. So we all know that Ofsted triggers a wave of anxiety and stress, and however Ofsted say that it doesn't, it does. And actually, sometimes if you think about it, that 6 year cycle, while it's intended to provide so much time for you to improve and develop, it actually may inadvertently contribute to that high stress environment, because when the inspection date looms, we all get slightly anxious. And I know we should say that we don't do it for Ofsted, but really, if you're listening to this, in the real world, we do it for Ofsted. We do it to get the grade and the judgment and the opinion of somebody who is from our regulatory body. So for me, if we reduced it, in my opinion, again, if we reduce the inspection cycle to 3 to 4 years, I think it could be a game changer for the sector. Now, hear me out. So if you're listening to this and mumbling under your breath, hear me out. Let me just have my opinion. And then if you wanted to raise your opinion in your comments on the YouTube or message us on our podcast, please feel free. I'm open to it. I'm open to a healthy debate. So my feelings are that 3 to 4 years in an early year setting, that is what I would class as the sweet spot of actually having an inspection. Okay, because one of the things that we see that the inspection cycle is we promote continuous improvement and the culture of it. Because if we just did it, and this is why we like with the inspection hub, and the members coming in, they're all nervous about it. But what's interesting, there's a cycle of where people are. So they go from anticipation all the way through, for the preparation to the implementation to actually reflection, valuation and reflection. But so when inspections are more frequent in earlier settings, we actually are able to maintain that high standards consistently. Now, this podcast is not somewhere where I'm wanting you to diss what Ofsted do, because that is not the purpose of the this podcast. The purpose of this podcast is, in my opinion, is that we should be having our inspections cycle reduced to 3 to 4 years, because actually the accountability, it fosters a more stable and ongoing commitment. It makes sure that our staff are already aware and we're doing it ongoing. It benefits both us and the children in our care. And actually, if we reduced the inspection cycle, it would actually, reduce the stress and anxiety, because it's given, that's what we do. If you think about it, 6 years is an awfully long time, and actually that can create a cycle of being complacent. It can be a cycle of often frantic, often intense preparation. But if we reduce that cycle to 3 to 4 years, inspections become a part of our routine and our calendar. And actually members of staff, our practitioners, us as managers or owners, if you're listening to this, are likely to experience less pressure and the fear of the unknown, because there's always something different. And when it's every 6 years, you're going through something different. That's, there may be a new framework, and if that's the case, we get so anxious and worried about it. So another thing is more frequent inspections provide more regular feedback. Now, we know that our local authorities don't go out to us as much as we would like them to. If we want them to come out, we have to pay for those services, or you get a consultant in and pay for those services. And I'm not doing myself out of service here, because I'm not doing that. But actually, regular feedback is invaluable to us and our professional development. Constructive criticism and recognition of what we do well can actually guide us to make more improvements and more adjustments, and this ongoing feedback can actually help with our growth as a setting, as a whole. And actually, surely that's really important for us in an early years setting, to actually be ensuring we are giving the best possible care and education for our children. Fact. Am I right? So when inspections become less frequent, then they become less, what I'm going to say is monumental events. There's less disruption to our normal flow of early year setting. And actually, by shortening those intervals from 6 years to 3 to 4 years, inspections become part of the norm. And that's what happened before it reduced, before it went up. It became part of the norm and something that staff and children are familiar with. And, I know, there's a lot of debate. There's lack of funding and the staff in recruitment crisis and all of that. But actually, just think how many staff you're going to have to induct through that 6 years. Whereas actually, if you're doing it on a more regular basis, it normalizes. That's what it does, and helps demystify that process and makes it less daunting, less anxiety, and actually becomes part of whatever we do on a regular basis. And it's really important that advocating for a shorter inspection cycle is not undermining the importance of Ofsted. It's not. The more frequent inspection schedule ensures that we are being monitored and held accountable to our standards, which is essential. I cannot tell you, essential to safeguarding our children, essential for safeguarding our staff, essential for ensuring our children's welfare and education, and the quality is at where it needs to be. And it's finding that balance of recognising and supporting our continuous improvement. And actually, if we did that, would actually reduce the stress. Surely it would, because if it's part of the norm, it's going to reduce our stress levels. It's going to lead to more transparency. Parents can be ensured that the setting is consistently meeting those high standards. And you're probably going, well, parents don't really read those Ofsted reports, but some do. Staff can feel that they're more confident in their efforts and actually being recognised what they're doing and acknowledged of what they're doing well. And that's when we become a more positive culture. And I'm all for positive culture in early years settings. So my belief is that we should be shifting to a 3 to 4 years inspection cycle. And it should be because it raises and enhances the quality and consistency of the care and education that we give children. It will reduce the stress and anxiety, because of the 6 year cycle is so huge and becomes so momentous that we need to halve it, at least halve it. Come on, guys. We can create a more stable, more supportive environment that benefits children and staff. And actually, we need to be actually embracing, and some of you are going to be reading this or not reading this, but actually listening to this or watching this and thinking, oh my gosh, she's going off on a rant. But actually, we need to normalise our inspection process and make them a tool and part of our routine in our early years life, ensuring that we are always doing the best we possibly can for our children. So that is my podcast for this week. I would be so interested to find out how you finding it, what your thoughts about it. I've been putting this thing in our inspection hub and getting a little bit of feedback from them. It's not great. They don't want to change, and I don't understand why. And I think sometimes if you go out and see lots of settings where they do need that support and local authorities are unable to give that support, then we do need to be reducing that cycle, that inspection cycle, to 3 to 4 years. So that is in my opinion. I would love to know what your opinion is. Thank you so much for listening this. That was my thoughts, pause for thoughts on an inspection while I was walking on my walk today. So let me know your thoughts and I'll speak to you soon. Take good care.